do my presentation and get this out for you guys for the week. Hope you're all doing well. It was fun meeting some of you the other week in our classes, and the rest of you, it's fun having you in class and responding to all your presentations. So here's mine. I'm looking at the dynamic systems theory. We're going to talk about what that is. It's part of motor development research, though, and then specifically this lit review that I'm sharing this week is looking at how does the dynamic systems theory apply to people with autism or that have autism spectrum disorder, and how it can be used to help them with motor development. So to start off, just talking about a couple of these topics. Motor development, obviously, as we know, that's essential for our growth. That's where we learn skills such as walking, eating, speaking, things like that. And children with autism spectrum disorder often experience motor challenges and are limited in their ability to communicate verbally or other motor skills using their hands and their legs, whether it be physical activity or exercise. Even walking is difficult for them sometimes. And then because of this, there's just a need to kind of have a breakdown of different variables that affect our motor abilities and kind of have a guidance of how we can improve them. And that's what the dynamic systems theory kind of looks at. It's a model to help you understand movement emergence or the development or building blocks of motor skills. They use the term emergence often with this because when we learn to walk, it's not like we just go from sitting to walking. First, it kind of emerges to standing, to crawling, to those movements, taking a few steps, and then it emerges towards walking. So dynamic systems theory looks at that. It focuses on the interaction between multiple systems, which I'm going to look at here on the next slide, some of those different systems. But things like the environment or age and rate of development. And then this is a nonlinear context-dependent development. It's not a straight line. It's not the same for everyone. And the context that we're going to talk about, those multiple systems, really are factors that influence someone's progression in movement emergence or motor skill development. So some of those interactions that we talked about in this context are physical, cognitive, and emotional characteristics. And so looking at the constraints of the dynamic systems theory, you have to understand each person's individual levels of understanding. If we look at autism spectrum disorder, there's nonverbal but high physical ability, low physical ability, and high verbal, and a wide range in between of different matters. You also have to look at the task that's being required. Again, looking at someone's cognitive state. Do they understand the goal of the movement, or physically can they handle the demands? And then the environment, emotionally, autism spectrum disorder tends to work alone. So in a social context, is the pressure being something that's impacting them, or is it the ability to complete the movement that's the issue? And the environment as well, that same physical ability, do they have that or not? So when we're looking at movement, these movement patterns emerge from those interaction of those constraints. The demands, is it a need? Do they have the ability? Do they not have the ability? And is there not a need? All of these things kind of play together. There's no you just do it because you do it. Often with autism, it's no single controller is the word here used. You have to go step by step of analyzing why something needs to be done and completing it step by step, especially with individuals with autism spectrum disorder. So, looking at that variability across individuals, the dynamic systems theory accounts for the unique movement strategies. The one thing about the dynamic systems theory is it's in its name there. It's dynamic, it's flexible, it's easily adaptable, and what it does is it takes those three categories that we've talked about up here, the individual, the task, and the environment, and it allows you to pair those and rotate those in a way that shows progress or can hopefully enable progress for an individual. Again, this is a theory, and we'll talk a little bit more about the studies on it. But in theory, if you're working with those three constraints, individual, task, and environment, then you can help them complete tasks or gain motor skills that they otherwise do not have. So this was a literature review that I shared with you all that we're discussing today, and its purpose was to examine how the dynamic systems theory has been used in motor development research with an emphasis on populations with autism spectrum disorder. So there was 18 different studies that were analyzed, and they either looked at in individuals with autism spectrum disorder learning motor skills, they looked at the constraints that limited them, or these studies manipulated the constraints to see if there was an ability to incur change, whether it was promoting growth in motor skill development or limiting by changing the environment, the task, or if different individuals had aptitudes for different requirements. So here was the key findings from these articles. Adjusting the constraints in this scenario, task design, or what the person was having to do, saw positive motor changes. If you break it down for them and you show a purpose and you show it one step at a time, they're then able to approach the problem more readily and complete it. And so that was one find that was excellent from this, was that manipulating that constraint of the tasks, but they also found the environment to be impactful as well. Putting someone who was more social in a social environment encouraged them to complete tasks they were assigned, versus individuals who were more reclusive or quiet. Having them complete the task alone without anyone watching, they were more inclined to complete the task in those scenarios as well. So looking at the dynamic systems theory and how that theory's been actually applied in research, there's only one study where they take the dynamic systems theory, which is these three specific constraints, and actually study if you focus on those and prioritize the individual, environment, and task, does it promote motor skill directly? So it did, yes, but that is just one study, which just shows such a gap between the theory and applied research. It's good in theory, it's good in the one study here that was talked about, but there's so much more. So those gaps need to be closed. So a lot of this, the studies that have been done are research descriptive. They just kind of look at what is going on and discuss what's going on, not actually changing things that intensely to try and promote increased motor skill development in individuals with autism spectrum disorder. Because of that, there's a limited real-world application from these studies because they're in controlled environments, and there's not anything that's directly being experimented with or changed within dynamic systems theory, such as the environment, the individual, or the task. So, looking at the theory's implications for individuals with autism spectrum disorder and helping them promote and grow, the one super positive thing is the individualized approach. It's tailored and flexible to the person, to their individual needs, whether they have limitations that are verbal, physical, or cognitive. And on top of that, as they go through each step, you can design those interventions for them to enable them to grow in whatever respective areas they need help succeeding in, again, based on their own personal starting point. You can adjust the task to better fit them and the environment to better fit their needs. So moving from the study, the recommendation would be to have more intervention-focused dynamic systems theories research. DST needs to be practiced and applied in studied cases to validate the theory, and with that theory integrated into clinical practice as a part of these studies and a part of the results of these studies to show its effectiveness, because on paper it sounds wonderful. And so can it truly help people develop their motor skills? Let's put it into practice and see for ourselves. From these studies, there was a couple limitations I wanted to draw. Small sample sizes, and you need diverse settings. It was very kind of in the box. Let's observe how individuals with autism spectrum disorder develop motor skills. We need more long-term studies, and we need more interventions in those studies in larger sample sizes. So this is something that will just grow over time. In conclusion, dynamic systems theory is a powerful lens to look at motor development through and can help others. It's promising but underutilized, and we just need it to be applied more in the world. And then we can see not only individuals with autism spectrum disorder who have limited abilities with motor skill development, but all individuals can help increase their motor skill development through the dynamic systems theory. And that is what I have for you all for this week. Look forward to hearing your thoughts and how you can see this applied in real world settings, or how you've seen it maybe already applied and helping others individuals learn motor skills. Here is my citation, and that'll be it. Thank you guys so much.